Hello everyone and welcome back guys to episode 21B of season 2 of the F1 2018 Williams Road to Glory career mode. And if you guys aren't aware of what this is, basically at the end of each season of the Formula 1 career mode, I decided to have a little bit of a look back through the driver stats and everything like that. Just like we did in season 1, sort of, it's going to be sort of like a look back at season 2 / a comparison of season 1 as well here. Because, obviously we've been trying to develop this Williams car. And I think overall, it's really, really important that we sort of look back and see where we've come from and, how far we are moving along. Now, relative to Season 1, then we'll sort of run through my driver details first of all. We're still sat, obviously, at 0 Drivers' World Championships and 0 Constructors' World Championships. Season 3, I'm really, really looking like I want to try and fight for the World Championship as well. So, obviously, hopefully, that can be a bit of a different story. Now, obviously, pretty much everything else from there will have changed as we leave Season 2. My total points after Season 1 was 34. That is now up 150. Obviously, in Season 2, we're now up to 184 points. 0 race wins is obviously now up to 3, where we won at Monaco, Germany, and at Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. Pole positions, obviously, we're up to 1. Obviously, that was at Austria. That race, from what I remember, went absolutely horrifically, though, on the whole. But obviously, we were still able to get the pole position in that Grand Prix. Our podiums have gone from 1 to 5, which still means, most... Well, in Season 2, we only got 1 race where we got a podium without winning. And off the top of my head, I can't actually recall where that was. So we'll obviously get a look at that in just a minute. My average finish position is from 13 down to now P11. My average grid position is also down 2 places from 16th to 14th. Obviously, hopefully, we'll be able to drive that even further, down inside the top 10 as we move into Season 3. My fastest laps as well has also gone from 0 to 2, and my laps driven has actually more than doubled. It was 582 as we left Season 1, which was obviously doubled if we did exactly the same in Season 2, would take us up to 1164, and it's actually up to 1241 overall, so we've done far more laps in Season 2, and that has also improved in the miles driven. 2096 in Season 1, which is obviously equate to 4192 in Season 2, but we're actually up to 4,473, and obviously the teams joined is still 1, because, well, we're sticking with Williams until we win the Drivers' and hopefully Constructors' World Championship. In terms, though, of the Drivers' World Championship, though, obviously, from Season 1 to Season 2, it was obviously Sebastian Vettel that was able to claim the Drivers' World Championship in Season 1, but it was not going to be the same story in Season 2. Even though he dominated the first 4 rounds of the season, he'd actually only be able to take home... Oh, excuse me, I just clicked the wrong button. He'd actually only be able to take home 2 more race victories over the entirety of the rest of that season, coming up both Hungary and Japan. And it would actually be his teammate Kimi Räikkönen, with even less wins overall on just 5 over the course of the season, that would actually prove to be, in the end, well, on the face, it was a dominant World Championship. He was able to make it to the end of every single Grand Prix. Had a bit of a rough time out in, well, the final few rounds, getting a 7th at Mexico and then a 6th at Abu Dhabi, but obviously he only missed out on the podium on 3 other occasions apart from that. So not quite the dominant run that we saw from Seb in Season 1. He was able to take home 424 points in Season 1, and relative to Kimi's obviously 355 in Season 2. Valtteri Bottas would actually come through and claim P2 in last year's World Championship with 282 points. He dropped all the way down to 153. And Lewis Hamilton would actually make a little bit of gains from Season 1 in Season 2. He go from 270 points in P3 to 288 points in P2. Obviously, last season as well, we quite famously had absolutely no safety cars. Obviously, for those of you that have checked out all the races this season, we had more safety cars in the final 5 laps of Abu Dhabi than we saw in the entirety of Season 1. Other drivers to sort of take notice from overall, Daniel Ricciardo went from 188 points in P6, obviously worst of the, sort of the A race, all the way up to P4 in Season 2 on 233, and also wouldn't have a single retirement in Season 2, which obviously in Season 1 he actually had the most retirements out of all of the AI there. We'd actually once again end up with 5 DNFs over the course of the season there as well, but obviously, as I said, we went from 34 points to 150 overall, and we'd also go all the way from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, all the way up to P6 by the end of Season 2. Nico Hulkenberg, who would actually finish best of the rest in Season 1, would drop all the way down to just ahead of my teammate Lance Stroll in Season 2 there. But yeah, other drivers to sort of notice, Charles Leclerc obviously had a fantastic season out. He would go from, I'm not too sure, he finished outside, I think, down in like P15, P16 in Season 1. I'll try and have a look quickly as to where he unfortunately finished all the way back in Season 1. Where is the results? I can't quite see at the moment. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Lance Stroll, obviously, last season. Well, yeah, he did obviously finish right at the very bottom, scoring 1 point in Abu Dhabi to make sure that every driver did score that season. And he would move all the way up to P13, if I'm not mistaken, in Season 2. So obviously he's moved up the order quite a bit as well. Unfortunately, though, Season 2, not every driver was able to score points in the end. Brendan Hartley would unfortunately not score a single point over the course of the season, and his best result would actually be a 12th place at the Canadian Grand Prix. They were 13th at China and France, if I'm not mistaken, as well. There were a few 14th, and then it was just an absolutely dismal season for the Toro Rosso driver. He made it to the end, though, of every single Grand Prix on the whole, which I guess is potentially even more frustrating for him. So obviously it was just a consistent sort of... Usually it was sort of P18, P19, which obviously is not particularly good for the Toro Rosso driver there. His teammate Pierre Gasly would score 1 point at the Monaco Grand Prix and also face 1 retirement over the course of the season. There was only going to be 1 disqualification, though, if I'm not mistaken, in Season 2, and that would go to Kevin Magnussen at the Japanese Grand Prix. Obviously quite fitting with how much controversy he was involved in the real-life Grand Prix as well. But yeah, I think overall, though, those are going to be some of the main stats from Season 2. We actually had quite a lot of drivers finish on the podium there. We had Kimi Raikkonen, Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, Valtteri Bottas, myself. Charles Leclerc would also score podium. Max Verstappen would also score a podium. Sergio Perez a podium. Fernando Alonso obviously taking that well, not controversial, but obviously quite interesting race victory at Singapore as well as Nico Hulkenberg. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13 drivers would score a podium then by the end of Season 2, and obviously my teammate Lance Stroll would just miss out on 1 as well. So obviously that was a little bit unfortunate for him, but obviously that was at the Russian Grand Prix where that would be our 1 podium this season without taking home the race victory. In terms of the standings, though, if we have a look overall in the Constructors, Williams obviously move right the way up the order after Season 1. Obviously in Season 1 we finished all the way down in P8 on 35 points. This year we were all the way up in P4, so we're constantly moving up the order, ready for Season 3. Ferrari would score 100 points less than they did in... Well, sorry, just under 100 points less, from 680 all the way down to 592. Mercedes would also score near enough 100 points less, from 552 down to 441. Red Bull would also score a few less, on 388 down to 366. We'd obviously move up, and pretty much every other team did score more points in Season 2. It was a much more even sort of World Championship. You know, a lot of teams, obviously excluding Toro Rosso, every team scored more than 50 points, and when you compare that to Season 1, where obviously only 7 teams scored more than 50 points, that is obviously very, very good as well. Just goes to show how much, you know, how sort of overall, how much more even it has been in the World Championship. I think overall, though, the most consistent team over the course of the 2 seasons would actually be McLaren. They'd go from 67 points in Season 1 up to 69 points in Season 2, but they would actually drop 1 place from 7th to P8 overall there as well. Toro Rosso as well would unfortunately would drop from 11 points down to 1, but they would finish last in both World Championships. Ferrari would do the double twice as well. Renault would drop all the way down from P4 to P7, and Force India would actually hold on to P5, despite scoring 60 points more than they did in last season. Sauber would go from 16 to 152 points there, so a fantastic job by those guys as well. But yeah, hopefully, you know, you guys have enjoyed this little sort of different video. Thank you all so much for the support over the course of Season 2, you know, as well. It's been quite an interesting season on the whole. Obviously, hoping as we move into Season 3, we should be able to fight for the Drivers' World Championship. Because, see, by the end of Season 2, if no other team was able to put upgrades on the car, we would actually move into Season 3 as the strongest team on the grid, which is obviously be absolutely fantastic to see, you know, if we can try to go for that Drivers' and Constructors' World title, end Ferrari's reign at the top of the standings. But thank you all so much for watching. Do not forget to like, subscribe if you're new around here. We're closing in on 10,000 subscribers at the moment. But hopefully I will see you guys next time for a brand new video.